Easy. Shop.catholic.com. Hello and welcome to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Delighted to be here with you with Tim Staples. And then second hour, Joe Heschmeyer will be here, and it's Ask Me Anything, both hours. 888-318-7884 is the number to call. You got a question about the Catholic faith? You want to talk about Jesus? You want to talk about the Bible? You want to talk about the saints or the sacraments or morals? 888-318-7884 is the number. 888-318-7884. Call early, call often. We'd be happy to take your call. And by the way, you don't have to be Catholic to call. You don't have to, you actually don't have to know anything about the faith. If there's something you're curious about or something you would like to know more about, your call is welcome. 888-318-7884. Our guest this hour, Tim Staples, senior apologist here at Catholic Answers, author of Behold Your Mother, a biblical and historical defense of the Marian doctrines. Hello, Tim Staples.
Hello, Cy Kellett. Isn't that what they say in Chicago? Call early, call often.
Vote
that's vote early, vote often.
Yes, exactly.
But we want folks to call early and call often.
And I'm going to give that number out one more time because it is August, and in August, we also ask you for your financial support so we can keep doing what we're doing. We're just going to do it today, tomorrow, and the next day, and just a few minutes each hour. So really 6 hours each quarter, and only part of each hour we come to ask you for your help. So if you want to get on the line with Tim, one more time, I'm going to give out that number, then I'm going to give out a different number for people to call and make their pledges. The number to call to get into this studio and talk with Tim, 888-318-7884. Just for a quick minute, let me let you know about our pledge drive. It's time for our quarterly pledge drive. It costs us, in order to produce all the shows that we produce here and get them out all around the world, it costs us $225,000 each quarter. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people listen on hundreds and hundreds of stations and websites and all that. And so for a very small amount of money, we get a big return, but we need to raise that money. So I'd ask you right now to call that number, 888-291-8000. Every dollar pledged is matched dollar for dollar. We have other donors, large donors, who will match it dollar for dollar. Just call 888-291-8000 or go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. There's another thing I'm going to let Tim tell you about, but let me just give out that number again because we have not received a call yet. 888-291-8000. And Tim, we're doing something a little bit different this hour.
Yes, we are, and I'm excited about it.
I was hoping you would be.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense, folks. Instead of hourly matches, we have a single match for the whole drive of $180,000. So every gift is matched dollar for dollar up to that $180,000. So let's just do the whole $180,000 in the first hour. What do you say?
Let's do it. Boom, we'll be done.
But no, this is a great idea. And then secondly, a new thing that we're going to stress here, folks, and I'm going to yell at you a little bit.
Yeah, do it, Tim. Do it.
Is each hour we're going for 100 pledges. Okay, now right now we are really not doing well because we've got 13 people waiting to hear you, and we had zero.
There's two.
Two just jumped on there. Okay, well, God bless you. Our first two callers, it is official, but we need you to call now early. We need 100 pledges, and what we have found is if we get 100 pledges per hour, we're going to make the match. We're going to make it. So we're going for 100 pledges. Be one of those pledgers right now. The lines are open back up here, folks. So please do pick up that phone, 888-291-8000. And on this first day, we've got a nice little surprise, don't we?
Yeah.
And we may have some surprises on the next 2 days, but we know we have a surprise today. And that is, there's going to be an additional $20,000 bonus if we reach 200 callers in the first 2 hours, okay? So I think we've only had 3 callers so far.
Right, so 97 to go?
No, 197 to go.
That's right.
To get to the 200. But seriously, folks, we've got a lot of other good stuff for you. Cy's going to tell you about. Everyone who donates today is going to get Sola Scripture Doesn't Work, an excellent book by Joel Peters, and we've got more coming. But most importantly, folks, we're living in a time where we need the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ proclaimed to the ends of this earth, my friends. And this is an awesome vehicle we have right here, a tremendous medium that has been effective over many, many years. Would you like to get involved with not just keeping us on the air, but expanding this apostolate, because we want to go beyond. Yes, we need to make this match to continue. Amen. But
Amen.
we also want to expand, folks. We're excited about growing Catholic Answers for one reason, and that is reaching more souls with the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And heaven knows, right now, in this dark time in which we are living, wars everywhere, our country is seemingly in shambles in so many ways, morally. Oh, my goodness. There's never been the level of moral confusion and just darkness. Never in our country's history, Cy Kellett, has it even been close to what it is now. And guess what? The Catholic Church has the answer. And that is, in the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ, we have the only instrument on this earth that presents the fullness of the truth concerning the moral law. We are the only Christians left, along with the Orthodox, that are pro-life 100%.
100%, yep.
And even there, I kind of, because when it comes to contraception, man, it depends who you're talking to, even among the Orthodox. The Catholic Church stands alone defending the moral law against the absurdities of this transgender ideology that Pope Francis has called demonic. It's effectively turning the moral order upside down, my friends. That is demonic, exactly what the devil wants. But guess what? We have the answer. Folks, we need your help, though, to continue to proclaim this, the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Most importantly, people need Jesus. And we have the real Jesus right here in our one holy Catholic and apostolic faith, folks. So we need you to get on the phones right from the start. We need your help. As Cy said, we only come to you once every 3 months asking for you to help us. We need your help right now, folks. 888-291-8000. And remember, you can go also to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. You don't have to wait in line there. CatholicAnswersRadio.com, give or text Catholic to 24365, because you know what, Cy? We're here at Catholic Answers 24 hours a day, 365 days a year via our website, all the stuff that we do, and it really is around the globe. So, folks, please, we've only had about 10 calls so far. We've got a long way to go. Let's get 190 more calls at 888-291-8000. And remember, we need those monthly donations. That's our bread and butter. If you can give that $25 a month, folks, and remember, when you give $25 a month, you're not just giving $300. That would be $300,
but it gets
over
matched
the year.
Immediately.
But
Yeah.
it's matched, so immediately that becomes $600, folks. 888-291-8000, and I'll give it back to you, Cy. But if you can be one of our major big donors, we need all donors. One-time $20 gift to our $20,000 club. Now, we've had a couple of folks enter
It's a
into
small
that.
club. I wish it was a bigger club. Small
But
club.
we have had a couple of folks enter into our $20,000 club. I want you to be one at 888-291-8000. Perhaps you can be in that $10,000. We've had quite a few folks that have been able to give us $10,000 in that one-time gift, $5,000, and I know we've got quite a few out there that can give $1,000 right now. But remember, those monthly gifts, that $100 a month, my friends, is not just $1,200. It immediately becomes $2,400 because every dollar is going to be matched. Please, folks, pick up the phone, 888-291-8000.
888-291-8000. I'm going to let Tim take some calls right now, so we'll do what we usually do. We don't like to take up the whole hour. 8 lines are open. 9 folks are on the line. Everyone you will speak to will be our colleagues here in this building with us. 888-291-8000. Remember, if we can get 200 people today to call and make a pledge, we get a $20,000 bonus from a very generous donor. Don's in Kingston, New York, watching on YouTube. Don, thanks for starting us out. Go ahead with your question for Tim.
Hi, thanks. Tim,
Yes.
I've been reading True Devotion to Mary, St. de Montfort.
Beautiful.
And I'm struggling with a couple of things.
Yeah.
One is, when you make the consecration to Mary, what happens to the other consecrations that you've made, like to the Holy Spirit or to the Sacred Heart?
Right.
I mean, are they just null and void?
No, actually, now, obviously, consecrations by nature do not disappear because you make another consecration. And remember, consecration, that has a wide sort of semantic range in Catholic theology. Marriage is a consecration, right? So, of course, I'm consecrated to my wife in marriage, but that does not mean I can't be consecrated to the Blessed Mother. I can't be consecrated to St. Joseph and so forth. So no, ordinarily, one consecration does not sort of automatically end when you make another consecration. Now, of course, some consecrations by nature eliminate the possibility of other consecrations, like I mentioned, marriage. But that gets down to understanding the nature of the individual consecration. And when you're talking about, private devotions and such, it's virtually never the case that one would undo the other. And remember, when you're, consecrated, it's not the same as a major consecration, say, a religious making final vows in a religious order. There are degrees of the binding authority of consecrations as well. And when you're talking about private devotions and such, remember, these things are there to help you on your way to God. And so if you make a consecration, it doesn't mean, oh no, I'm bound for the rest of my life, Psychelet. I don't even want to do this consecration anymore. I want to do another. Well, guess what? You're not stuck, right? It's not like in a religious order or in a marriage, right? When you sign on the dotted line, it is until death do us part when it comes to marriage. So again, it depends upon the nature of the consecration. All right? Thanks so much for your call, brother. I appreciate it. And also, I appreciate every one of you. We're starting to get some calls here, folks, but we need you all to jump on that phone right now. We've got 9 open lines right now at 888-291-8000. Let's get off to a good start on this drive, folks. Can you help us? Go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. You can pledge right there, or text Catholic to 24365. But let's see a flood of phone calls right now at 888-291-8000. Si, I was thinking about, before I came on the air, the late, great Al Kresta. What a great man he was and is. Please pray for Al, although if I'm a betting man, I'm betting he's in heaven right now. That man was so holy, and he did so much for our blessed Lord. But, of course, we pray for him. And please do. But I remember when I wrote my book, Behold Your Mother, he wrote one of the blurbs for it. And one thing he said was, if only Tim Staples had written this book when I was Protestant, I would have been Protestant a lot, or I'd have been Catholic sooner.
A lot quicker,
Let's put it that. Yeah. I would have been Catholic a lot sooner. And I was thinking about that with regard to this ministry here, this incredible apostolate that God has given to us here at Catholic Answers. And thanks be to God for Carl Keating, Jimmy Akin, the guys, Carl especially. This was his baby. We exist because of that man and his vision. But if we could just blast up on the screen right now the thousands and thousands of people who could answer Al Kresta and say, man, you better believe it, because I'm Catholic now because of Catholic Answers Live. They sent me a book. They sent me this. It was a CD set, maybe, back when we had those. Yeah. Or digital. A tape or a digital download or whatever it is that have brought literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to the faith over the years. Folks, this is why we need your help right now. There should not be 11 open lines right now. Please, we have for the last 30 years been here for you. And I don't think anybody listening right now would deny that we have been there through thick and thin. Catholic Answers has been delivering exactly what our name says, Catholic Answers, for many decades now. But we're asking you today, just one time a quarter, can you help us? And remember, folks, we have a natural attrition rate. Between these drives, we have people that leave. Some people die and they can't give anymore. Or they move to an area where there's no radio broadcast. And for various reasons, people drop off. So we need you guys to fill in the gap right there, and then we can move on and add more. 888-291-8000. That's 888-291-8000. And remember this, there's so much more we want to do, and you can help us by calling that number right now and giving that $25 a month. And maybe there might be one or two of you that you're already giving $25 a month. You know, a lot of people just can't afford right now. I'm telling you, Cy, I'm being honest. My wife and I have often given, larger gifts to this drive. We can't do it anymore. I mean, it's the prices of food and everything have gone up so much.
Yeah.
It has hurt us. And so I know, my friends, that there are people listening that just would love to give and they can't. So if you can, folks, please, maybe double that. Maybe you're giving $25 a month. You can double that to $50 a month. Maybe you're giving $50, you can make that $100 a month. That would mean so much to us, my friends, at 888-291-8000. And first-time donations, remember, you're going to get a free book, Sola Scriptura Doesn't Work. Awesome book by Joel Peters. Please call 888-291-8000.
All right, we're going to go back to the phones. Let me just reset a little bit, let you know where we are each quarter. We come to you to ask you to support this program. This program goes out on hundreds of radio stations across the United States and around the world. It goes out on websites, and it goes out on people's apps and on various internet places. And all we do is explain and defend the Catholic faith. We need your support to continue to do that. It costs us $225,000 every 3 months to continue to do what we do. Right now, we've got a match on. Any donation is matched dollar for dollar. $10 donation becomes $20, $100 becomes $200. Say you could do $50 a month. That's $600, but it's matched. So it's another $600 that comes into us immediately. Every monthly pledge is immediately matched. Also, we have a bonus on the table for today. If we can get 200 people to pick up the phone and call. Because you think about it, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people all around the world who listen to this program. You hear the calls from Europe and Africa, from Asia, from Australia, from many other places. And we're able to answer their questions and talk with them. But it's a few hundred people who support this work, each pledge drive. So if we can reach 200 calls today, it would mean a great deal to us. And we have a donor who will give us an extra $20,000. So help us to get
Fantastic.
that $20,000 match. Pick up the phone and call 888-291-8000. Right now, there are 19 of our colleagues ready to take your calls, and only 2 of them are on the line at the moment. So please pick up that phone and call. Every pledge you make, a one-time pledge, a monthly pledge, it's all matched dollar for dollar right now. 888-291-8000. Just 2 more things to tell you before I go back to the phones for Tim. As Tim mentioned, everyone who donates gets this brand new book, Sola Scriptura Doesn't Work, the new book from Joel Peters. Today is the day it's out, the brand new book from Catholic Answers Press. And everyone who becomes a new monthly pledge, if you become a new monthly donor, you become a member of our Society 315, and you get the Hallow app, the premium version of the Hallow app for a full year. Again, everything matched dollar for dollar. Perfect time to call because lots of folks are ready to take your call.
Amen.
888-291-8000. Going to Boston now. Jamie, listening on Catholic.com. Welcome back, Jamie.
Thanks for welcoming me back. Good to talk to you. Got donation day.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you here.
Welcome. What's on your mind?
My question is, Hebrews 10:14 says, by one sacrifice he has made perfect forever those who are being made holy.
Yes.
And then in the same chapter, Hebrews 10:26-27
Yes.
says, if we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sins is left, but only a fearful expectation of judgment and of raging fire. How can you reconcile these verses, especially in light of the debate on whether or not a Christian can lose their salvation?
Great question. The key, as always, it's Jamie, right?
Yeah, Jamie. Yep.
Jamie, the key, as always, is context. Remember the first 13 verses leading up to verse 14. By a single offering, he has perfected forever those who are being sanctified. The context is the inspired author is writing a letter to Jewish converts who had become Christians, but they had been tempted to go back to the law. They were being told, it's great that you believe in Jesus, but unless you go back to the temple and offer sacrifice and so forth, you're not going to heaven, right? And so the inspired author here, The entire letter is showing how every aspect of the old covenant has been fulfilled and perfected, and in that perfection, abrogated by the coming of our blessed Lord. And so in the first 13 verses, what do you see? He's talking about how that the blood of lambs and heifers and pigeons have never been able to take away any sins. But it's the sacrifice of Christ when you get down to what about verse 7, where he says, "Then said I, lo, I come to do thy will, O God." And this is a quotation from Psalm 40 that prophesied, in fact, back up there to verse 5, when Christ came into the world, he said, "Sacrifices and offerings thou hast not desired, but a body hast thou prepared for me." And there introduces the sacrifice of Jesus Christ that is, in fact, able to take away the sins of the world. And the key is here that the inspired author is talking about on the objective level. The animal sacrifices no power to take away sins. Jesus takes away all sins. In fact, we know from 1 John chapter 2, verses 1 and 2, St. John says that Christ is the propitiation for our sins, and not only our sins, but the sins of the whole world. What does that mean? That means on the objective level, his sacrifice took away all sins, right? That is, his sacrifice is of infinite value. Again, St. John says he is the propitiation. That is a sacrifice, propitiation for our sins, and not only our sins, but the sins of the whole world. So again, in verse 14, by that single offering he has perfected for all time, that's referring on the objective level, absolutely, his sacrifice is of infinite value. Now, those who are being sanctified, that's on the subjective level, those who are cooperating with grace right now. And that's kind of an introduction into what follows leading up to the verses that you quoted, verse 26. Now on the subjective level, Jesus did all this for us. His sacrifice is of infinite value. We who are now in a process of being sanctified. And that means we have to do something now. We have to cooperate with God's grace. That's why in that same 1 John chapter 1, verse 7, St. John says that if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another, and the blood of Jesus Christ, his son, continues to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If we say we have no sin, we're a liar and the truth is not in us. But if we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So notice he's talking to Christians there, just as here the inspired author to the Hebrews is saying, we must continue to walk with the Lord and continue to be sanctified, continue to have the blood of Jesus cleanse us from all sins. And you go down to verse 26, he says, but if we sin deliberately after receiving the knowledge of the truth. That's exactly what was going on with these Hebrew Christians. They had received the knowledge of the truth. They were Christians, but they were being tempted now to go back to an old law that the inspired author just explained has no power to take away any sins. And if you do that, you cannot be saved. That's the message of the inspired author. Does that make sense?
Oh, I'm sorry. I put her on hold. Sorry, Jamie. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, the objective versus subjective. Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Donation line.
All right.
Thank you, Jamie.
God bless you.
We're hoping for lots of folks
And
to
you know
call
what?
that donation line. Hang on. 888-291-8000 is the number. 888-291-8000. Every pledge is matched dollar for dollar right now. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I was just saying that's a great segue, isn't it? To asking you now to pick up the phone, folks. There is nothing that does our hearts more good than to hear, like we just heard from Jamie, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
The objective and subjective. What's happening here is we're giving people answers, biblically, traditionally, solid answers, so that they can then go out and defend the Catholic faith. That is what we're about. Or for our Protestant friends who call, for atheists who call, and so many folks, if we could tell you the stories of so many lives, from atheists to members of every world religion you can imagine. We even had an Orthodox priest one time on the air declare he wanted to become Catholic. He had been listening to us for quite a while, bought some of our stuff. He was an Orthodox priest, and he said it right on the air. And I remember it was Father Vincent Serpa that was here when he said it, and Father was like, he didn't know what to say, like, okay. And in that situation, this particular Orthodox community is in a very close relationship with the church. We actually had to give that case over to the Vatican, who brought him into the church. But folks, this is what you're contributing to. If you will call that number right now, 888-291-8000. Pick up the phone now.
Every pledge matched dollar for dollar up to $180,000. 888-291-8000.
Will you do us a favor right now? Clear your mind of all other thoughts and reflect for just a moment on how Catholic Answers Live has made a difference in your life. Has our broadcast made your afternoon commute more meaningful? Perhaps you've learned how to explain the faith to family or friends in a more vibrant, convincing way. Something you heard here may have been just the thing you needed to look into joining or returning to the Catholic faith. All of these are serious reasons to be thankful, first and foremost to God, but also to all who have financially made it possible for us to air the show each day. Believe me, our gratitude could not be deeper. And we're coming to you today during our quarterly membership drive, asking you to join the ranks of the great people whose gifts and sacrifices have helped to turn around countless lives over the years, and, very possibly, helped make an eternal difference for many of them. Think about that for a moment. That's what your prayers and donations to Catholic Answers Live are doing. What a tremendous opportunity is being presented to you right now. Please don't let it pass you by. Call 888-291-8000 or visit CatholicAnswersRadio.com and let one of our fast, friendly customer service team members take your pledge. Large or small, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you call right now. Again, it's 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. We're offering some great appreciation gifts that are sure to deepen your faith life even more. But what's best is you'll have the confidence that when you turn your radio on tomorrow, or next week, or 12 days from now, we'll be here, boldly and charitably presenting the truth to a world that's searching for precisely that. Your pledge is vital to keeping Catholic Answers Live on the air. Will you make the call today to 888-291-8000 or donate securely online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com? Thank you so much in advance. Give now at CatholicAnswersRadio.com or 888-291-8000. God bless you.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Thanks so much for being here with us. It's kind of nice to be looking at the phone lines lighten up here. We have 20 of our colleagues on the lines right now. 20, that's really wonderful to have 20 of our colleagues take their afternoon and wait by the phone. And if you call, they pick it up and they talk with you. And you're welcome to talk with them about whatever you like, let them know why you're giving, or just tell them, I'm in a hurry, I got to get done. One of the nice things about the pledge drives is that we get to talk with folks, and they'd be happy to talk with you if you want. Just call 888-291-8000. Let me just set it up for you where we are right now. Tim Staples is our guest this hour. It's Ask Me Anything, and we've got lots of calls to get back to. But before I go back to the calls, I will remind you that we are in the midst of our quarterly pledge drive. We need to raise $225,000 every 3 months in order to continue to do what we do. You hear about all the podcasts. Maybe you are a listener to some of the podcasts. You hear about the radio program and the interviews we do, the YouTube stuff, the TikTok stuff, and I can go on and on and on. Even on places you probably haven't heard of, like Twitch. We're there sharing the good news. And the show goes out for free to anybody in the world who wants to broadcast it. We do not charge anyone for this program. We just need your help to pay for it. And that costs us $225,000 every 3 months to pay for all of it. Right now, every gift is matched up to $180,000. Dollar for dollar, every gift matched up to $180,000. But we need 100 pledges this hour, basically because it comes down to this. We have a donor who will give us a $20,000 bonus if we can just get 200 people to call and make a pledge today. Because the first day is usually the toughest day to get people to call and make that pledge. But if you're ready to make your, say, $100 one-time gift, or your $10 one-time gift, or your $10 monthly pledge, or your $100 monthly pledge, whatever it is, it's all matched. And each call with a pledge will help us get closer to that 200 calls we need to take today. And again, I'd like you to think about that. It's, again, thousands and thousands of people. Maybe we actually don't know, but millions of people a year listen to this program, hear the good news of Jesus Christ, hear about the fullness of the faith in the Catholic Church, all because a few hundred people pick up the phone and call. And so we need you to do that in order to keep doing what we're doing. $20,000 bonus for us if we can get 200 people to call today. 888-291-8000. You can also go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, CatholicAnswersRadio.com. We've got calls to get back
Yes,
to, and I want to
let's
do
do
that
it.
work. But I'll tell you right now, 10 lines open. If we fill those 10 up right now, we are getting closer and closer to reaching that. Well, I'll tell you what, we need 70 calls in the next half hour. 70 calls in the next half hour, and we're on track for this hour. 888-291-8000. I should say this before, I'm sorry, but if we go back to before we go back to the phones, if you go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and put it in yourself, that counts as a call. I just want you to know that. So you don't have to get on the phone. If you want to do it on the computer, that goes in the tally as well. CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
And what if they text Catholic to 24365?
That also counts.
There you go.
Text the word Catholic 24365. Laura is in North Carolina watching on YouTube. Laura, thank you for waiting. Go ahead with your question for Tim.
Thank you, Cy, and thanks for clarifying that it counts if you do it online, because that was a question I had last pledge drive.
I didn't mean to,
So,
Laura, but I
thank
read
you.
your mind while you were on the phone. I apologize for that.
Right on.
Okay, so read this. So in honor of today's high class day, I have a nice low class question about feasts.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but first, though, I returned to the Catholic faith 2 years ago after more than 5 decades away. And listening steadily to the Catholic Answers people, including both of you, has helped me stay in and grow more
Praise
committed
God.
to the faith.
Thank
Just
you
need
for
to say
sharing that with us, Laura. Thank you.
All right, question now. Before returning, I always thought feasts mainly meant lots of food. But now when Catholic feasts are discussed, I rarely hear food mentioned at all. So in the Catholic Church, how does food factor into feasts? What are
Yes.
we actually supposed to be eating, and how much?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. And of course, feast is so important in our tradition because, of course, this goes all the way back to really Adam and Eve, and especially their sons Cain and Abel, who after the fall, what do they bring in sacrifice to God? But Abel brings from his flock and Cain brings from the field. This is, was their livelihood. It was the best thing they could give to God, and so they did. And they offered some to God, and then, of course, they feasted with their families as well. The idea being, we're giving this sacrifice first to God, but then we also communicate in that very communion, that sacrificial communion, by then consuming those sacrifices. Hence becomes a long tradition of natural religion leading up to Jesus Christ, who, of course, offers the greatest sacrifice, that prophetic, from Malachi chapter 1, verses 7 through 11, the prophetic, perfect, clean sacrifice that would be offered among the Gentiles, and from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same. So the idea of feasting is extremely important because, of course, we feast on the Eucharist, and that is our salvation. But now we extend beyond that. We are see, as Catholics, we love feasting, right? We love food, the ultimate food, which is the Eucharist. But if you remember in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, we read about how there was actually a feast. It was called the Agape Feast before the Eucharist. Now, we don't do that anymore. We have a fasting time before receiving the Eucharist. But we are encouraged to feast as families. Before the Eucharist, of course, not an hour before receiving communion. After, because this is fellowship. It's fellowship around the table. And so that's why feasting is so important. And of course, it's our sustenance. This is the way we survive, is by eating food. But now when it comes to food, yeah, the church does give us direction when it comes to, for example, on Good Friday and, of course, Ash Wednesday, we fast. And in those situations, We are called to. Now, the bishops, the American bishops, gave us a good little kind of rule of thumb. It's not actually binding, but it's kind of a general sort of, this is what you might want to do, right? Is we have one full meal and then 2 small meals that don't add up to 1 meal. That's kind of in the spirit of what Pope St. Paul VI laid out when he said we have 1 full meal and then 2 other, sort of what is the equivalent of a snack, so to speak. And that's our Catholic fast on those days. And we abstain, of course, as I mentioned, an hour before the Eucharist. And that abstinence is very, very strict in the Catholic Church, in as much as the only thing you can consume is water or medicine when you're in that 1 hour. Now, we also abstain from meats on Fridays during Lent. Now, we don't have to do that year-round, although it's encouraged. We don't have to by law. But during Lent, we are called to abstain from meats. It's a little bit more lenient than the abstinence leading up to the Eucharist. But still, we abstain from meats. We can eat fish and so forth. But that's kind of, in a nutshell, what the Catholic Church does around the year when it comes to food. But remember, the Church encourages, as does Jesus himself, as does the New Testament, to fast beyond what is just the minimal. Because prayer, fasting, almsgiving, these are the powerhouses of the spiritual life that empower us to be able to live the faith better. So we should be going beyond what are just those minimal requirements, right, Cy Kellett?
Why do you say right, Cy Kellett, like I'm the one that needs to hear it? Yes, right, Tim, exactly right.
Well, and thanks so much for your call. But one more time, folks, we really do need your help. We've got 10 open lines. We've got 10 agents who are idle. Now it just jumped up to 12, waiting to hear from you. Can you call us right now? We really need your help. You know, I was thinking, Cy, about just the insanity of the transgender movement now, the mutilations of children that is going on, the homosexual sort of craze. Now it's cool to be homosexual, and if anybody says anything that it's contrary to nature, that it's contrary to the law of God, you're the weird one now. Have you heard that lately, Si? We're the weird ones because we say men ought to dress like men and women ought to dress like women, and that a man is ordered to a woman and a woman toward a man. This is the culture in which we live. But guess what, folks? That means it's never been more important to proclaim the truth, because the fact is, the people that are caught up in all of these sins, and that's what they are, Cy Kellett.
Yeah.
Sins. They're caught up in the darkness of the sins of homosexuality. That is, homosexual acts. They're caught up in the sin of transgender, and they experience the mutilation that comes, children being mutilated now, and the older ones, Cy, who are being mutilated. What happens when they come to, realize, oh boy, I should not have done that? We've got to be there to pick up the pieces, because we're talking about lives that are being destroyed because of this culture of death and this relativistic culture in which we live. Folks, the antidote to this mess is in our one holy Catholic and apostolic faith. Folks, will you call right now and help us to be able to proclaim the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ? Please pick up the phone right now. We've got 14 agents waiting for you at 888-291-8000. Please call 888-291-8000. We need to hear from you now. We're coming down to the end of the road here of this first hour, and we're not at our 100 calls yet. So you be one of them right now. 888-291-8000.
We actually are 50 calls from being on track, and we just need 50 calls in the next 25 minutes. Can we do 50 calls in the next 25 minutes? 888-291-8000. Every pledge matched dollar for dollar, $20,000 bonus on the line for us if we can get 200 calls today. 888-291-8000. It also counts if you go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and make your pledge there. 888-291-8000.
Catholic Answers Live.
One of the biggest mistakes a Christian can make is to try to do good without God's help. St. Therese said, when we trust only ourselves and not God, our soul becomes incapable of virtue. Her remedy? Works of charity. And the greatest work of charity is to share the gospel. At St. Paul Street Evangelization, a Catholic nonprofit, we encourage you to share the gospel with someone who doesn't know Jesus. Catholic Answers is supported in part by St. Paul Street Evangelization, streetevangelization.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. There's a lot on the line in our society today, and we are convinced, and I think many who listen to the show with us each day are also convinced the true answer, the real answer is people have let go of God. Many of us have done it in our own lives. Our society has done it in many ways, and when God comes back to the center of our lives, things are set right. And the person who brings God, who is the God that comes to find us at the center of our lives, is Jesus himself. Help us to share that message. We're less than 50 calls away now from reaching 100 this hour, and that's our goal for this hour. In order to work towards that 200 calls, we need to get for a $20,000 bonus, 888-291-8000. If you've never given before, it only takes about 90 seconds. You call them up, you let them know what you want to let them know, and you're done in 90 seconds. Or you can visit for a while, because there are 21 of our colleagues on the phone. They're right here in the building with us. If you want to share your story with them, or you'd like to hear about Catholic Answers, they'll take the time with you. 888-291-8000. I'll tell you what, right now there's 9 lines open. Could we just fill up those lines? Maybe you could make a one-time $20 pledge. Maybe you could make a $20 a month pledge. Maybe you could do more or less than that, but if we could fill up those lines, the 9 that are open right now will get a lot closer. 888-291-8000. We've been hearing some lovely things. As you've heard, we've asked people to share their testimony about what Catholic Answers Live has meant to them. More than 25 years on the air with this program. And here's what Brian had to say.
Recently, I was in a parish at a ministry meeting, and there was probably a good 30 people there around the table. And as you typically would do, is you would introduce yourself and tell a little bit about who you are. And of all the people that were reverts or converts to the Catholic faith, every single one of us credited Catholic Answers with the reason that we came back to the Catholic faith. So you guys are doing amazing work, and keep up the hard work, because you're saving souls. And for myself in particular, I really appreciate it. You took me from being a militant atheist, and now I'm a life-professed lay Dominican. So
praise God.
Thank you so much, Catholic Answers. We really appreciate everything you do.
Praise God.
Wow,
Beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? And when he says you guys, he's talking about you, the people who pick up the phone and call. We do a small part of this work. We just talk. I mean, the work is shared by all the people who pick up the phone and call. Right now, 8 lines open. Please fill them up. 888-291-8000. And I'm going to go back to the other phone line and let Tim do his job.
Let's do it.
Julian's in Lafayette, Louisiana, listening on 90.5 FM. Julian, welcome. Go ahead with your question for Tim.
Hello.
Hi, Tim.
Yes.
I was wondering if the Mary Like Modesty letter to women written by the Cardinal Vicar of Pope Pius XI in 1930 still applies today. Also, I love your show. I listen every day to it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, actually, no. It never had the binding force of the magisterium, because, as you mentioned, and I'm glad to hear you say that, it was written by the Cardinal Vicar of Pope Pius XI, and that was in 1928, actually, not 1930. But no, it doesn't have any binding authority, any magisterial authority. Now, having said that, it has been referenced over the decades by various bishops, especially, back in the 1930s and 40s. You've had bishops reference it. And there are some good things in that letter. But, nowadays, you get online often the famous line where you have to, a dress can only go 2 fingers width beneath the throat.
Holy smokes.
In order to, that's right. Me and Cy don't cut it right here,
Holy
I think,
smokes.
right now. Those sorts of things, cannot be taken to be some sort of binding magisterial document, and unfortunately some folks do that. But it doesn't mean there's nothing good in it either. Heaven knows we need modesty in our culture today, to be sure. Just, don't fall prey to those who claim. In fact, if you go online, you'll see that famous letter referred to as a decree of Pope Pius XI, a binding magisterial decree and that sort of thing, which it simply is not. But folks, you know what? This is why we're on the air, to help clarify things like that. Folks, we really need your help right now, because we have open lines right now. We have 3 open lines, and we should not have open lines with 14 minutes left. Is it 14 or am I off?
14. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, we've got 14 minutes left, and we have got to hit that 100 call. And folks, can I ask? I think I will. Can we get that big $20,000 gift right now to start us off? That would be awesome. At 888-291-8000. Maybe you can give that $10,000, $5,000, $2,000 gift. And I know we've got quite a few that can give that $1,000 gift. But remember, folks, that $25 a month gift is so important to us, because, again, that's not only $300, which is fantastic a year, right? But it becomes $600 because it is doubled, my friend. And remember, a $20,000 gift becomes $40,000 immediately. Give us a call, 888-291-8000. There is no gift that's too big, heaven knows. But, folks, there is no gift that's too small. Those $10 gifts, $10 a month, $15 one time, $20 one time. Give us a call, 888-291-8000, or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com or text Catholic to 24365.
Just 6 lines open, 12 on the line. That means there are 18. Of course, you can do the math. There are 18 of our colleagues waiting for your calls. 888-291-8000. 7 lines open now. If we keep them full, we're doing great, and we can reach our 100 call goal this hour. I want to remind you that if you're calling to make your pledge, any pledge you make, whether it's one-time pledge or a monthly pledge, it will be matched for the first year 100%. So everything is matched 100% up to $180,000. Our goal is $225,000 in 3 days. We can do that if we average 100 calls per hour. Can we do that? 888-291-8000. And if we reach 200 pledges today, we have a generous donor who will give us an additional $20,000 bonus. There's a $20,000 bonus on the line to reach 200 calls on the first day of this pledge drive. That's awful nice that someone offered that. Help us to use it up. 888-291-8000. Everyone who donates will get a copy of this brand new book. Came out today. Sola Scriptura Doesn't Work. 25 Practical Reasons to Reject the Doctrine of Bible Alone by Joel Peters. You get that if you donate, and everyone who becomes a new monthly donor gets a full year of the premium Hallow app. 888-291-8000.
Am I seeing right here a $5,000 donation?
I'm not sure I'm supposed to say the person's name, but I'll say the state, Maryland. A wonderful woman from Maryland just called and gave $5,000.
Okay,
so thank you.
Remember, if you give us permission, we can use your name, right?
Yeah.
But I want to thank you so much. That woman
yes.
from Maryland who just gave that $5,000. And folks, right now, our phone lines are full. Awesome. But now one just opened up. So call 888-291-8000. And remember, we're coming down to the end of this hour. So go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. There's no line there. Text Catholic to 24365. That counts, as Cy Kellett has said. We've got to get to that 100 here before the end of the hour. Where are we at, Cy?
Okay, let me tell you right now. Yeah, we're not looking for 200 calls. I shouldn't have said that. We're looking for 200 gifts, and so what Tim said is correct. Go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, make your gift right now, and that will count. Or text Catholic to 24365 right now. Well, oh boy, now I lost.
You lost it.
I completely lost it. It was here a second. Oh, we are. Oh my gosh, we're going to make it. We're just about 20 calls from doing 100 this hour.
All right,
just
20 calls
from doing 100 this hour.
And we've got 3 open
Three
lines,
open
folks.
right now.
Join the party. 888-291-8000.
888-291-8000. Having a lot of fun. This allows us to answer more calls, to allow Tim to answer more questions. Please just continue to call 888-291-8000 or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com, and then we'll let Tim continue to do what he does. Right now, we'll talk to Ryan in Michigan watching on YouTube. Ryan, thank you for the call. Go ahead with the question.
Yeah, so my question is, what's the Catholic position on finding the one in the dating or married life? if there is such a thing as the one, and if I can't find the one, then that means I'm either meant for priesthood or that I just have to keep waiting to find the one.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Right, Ryan. Yeah. There's no such thing in Catholic theology as an answer to this question, like, if you, I had her, we were dating, she was the one, now she's gone. So for the rest of my life, I have to be single because I lost the one. No. And the reason is because, number one, we're not God. And so we don't know God's plan for us. We simply are to remain open to the Holy Spirit. You can date lots of different young women. If you're a man looking for a wife, or a woman can date lots of different young men, and you find your best friend and you marry him. And in God's mysterious providential plan, when you sign on the dotted line and you are married, that is the one. Right. Okay, there's no such thing as, oh, I blew it, so nope, I have to be celibate. No, we are led by the Holy Spirit, and God only knows how many times we blow it in our lives, right, Cy Kellett, until the final judgment. You know, my goodness, right? We blow it over and over again. God is the master at picking up pieces and making a glorious cathedral out of it. Thanks for your call, my friend. And we are coming down, folks, to the last 7 minutes. We need some calls. We've actually added a couple of agents here, right? We had 20, now we have 22. So there's 2 more lines for you to call at 888-291-8000. We need to get those last 20 calls in at 888-291-8000. Remember, you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. You can text Catholic to 24365. Those count. Folks, we need big, we need small. It's going to be all of us together that's going to get that $180,000 match, and we will be off to the races for this next quarter.
As many as we can get this hour. We set ourselves up then for the second hour because it's today. If we can get 200 calls today, then we will get a $20,000 match from a generous donor, and it's exciting that we're in good shape to do it. This last half hour has been quite extraordinary. There's 7 lines open. Pick up that phone and call, whatever the pledge is, 888-291-8000. Any pledge matched. You want to give $100 a month? That's $1,200 a year. That $1,200 is matched immediately to us by a donor. If you want to give $10 a month, that's $120 matched immediately. Whatever. And if you come in as a monthly donor, you're a member of Society 315. You get the T-shirt. You get all the benefits throughout the year, and you get the Sola Scriptura book that we're giving away today, and you get a full year membership, premium membership to Hallow. So today is the day to give. I mean, if you want to come in as a new monthly donor at any amount, it's matched dollar for dollar, and then all those benefits are yours. 888-291-8000. Ken from North Dakota just donated $50 a month plus fees. Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much. James in New York always listens on Sirius XM satellite radio, EWTN channel 130. When he's on his way home, and he just donated. And James, thank you. I'm glad we get to ride home with you each day. Keep up the good work from Jeff in Metairie. That's in Louisiana. He just gave $40 and covered the fees. Thank you all. Thank you to everybody who is still giving. 6 lines open right now. When we go into the break, there'll be some ads and whatnot playing. Then we'll come right back. But as those things are playing and as we're on the break, perfect time to call. You won't miss the program. And our colleagues here in the building will stay on those lines. 888-291-8000. Let's see if we can get over 100 this hour. It looks like I mean, I can't tell exactly, but we're very close to 100 right now. We're over 90, I think.
Let's go, folks.
So a few more calls that we can do it, and then Joe Heschmeyer will be here for us the second hour, and we'll do Ask Me Anything again the second hour. 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com.
Folks, thank you so much. I know we're coming to the end of the first hour here. Thank you so much, everyone that has called. 888-291-8000. Again, do not stop calling over this break. We need your help, my friends. We need the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ to go to the ends of the earth, and we're doing it right here at Catholic Answers Live.
888-291-8000. Your call, your pledge allows us to give this program to hundreds of radio stations, websites, apps, all kinds of other things, social media sites. It goes out around the world for free. You hear the calls They come in from all around the world. You make that possible when you call, or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. It counts there too. CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Lines open for the next few minutes till we get back with Joe. 888-291-8000. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. Happy to be here with you. Also happy to be here with Joe Heschmeyer. Tim Staples really brought it last hour, and because we're in the first couple hours of our quarterly pledge drive. So in between Joe taking calls today, we will be asking you for your financial support so we can stay on the air for the next 3 months. It's always worked out. We've been here almost 27 years. So apparently God's got a plan, and he keeps bringing us good friends like you to keep us on the air. But what we said the last hour was, and we said it because it's true, we have a donor who will give us a $20,000 bonus if we can get 200 calls in the first day. And that meant, of course, 100 calls an hour. And Darren is on the phone at the moment, so I don't know what the actual number of the first hour was, but it had to be over 100. We were getting very close there at the end. I know he'll update it here momentarily, but I'm going to call it. If we can get 100 calls this hour, we got a $20,000 bonus coming. I can just feel it. We're at 108 for the first hour. So 108 for the first hour. We just need 92 calls this hour. Our guest this hour is Joe Heschmeyer, the author of quite a few wonderful books, including one that's very popular this year because of the Eucharistic revival. The Eucharist is really Jesus. Joe Heschmeyer, thank you for being here.
It's good to be here. This is an exciting hour. Tim really set a good pace. And let me just, pull back the curtain a little bit. To those of you listening, this is a 3-day quarterly pledge drive. And when the first day goes really well, it is a huge relief for everyone here because you're not sweating bullets saying, are we going to make these projections?
Right.
Or are we going to, have to let Cy go or, whatever. As an example. And so, this is a really great time. You can get the match throughout the 3 days. Up to $180,000 is going to be matched. And if we get 200 calls in a particular day, $20,000, right? So this is a great day for that extra $20,000. It's a great day because we're on course to. It's a very feasible goal, and it's a huge relief. We will be personally grateful if you don't wait till the 11th hour to make your donation.
888-291 is the number to call. Get your every pledge matched right now up to $180,000, dollar for dollar match. 888-291-8000. We need right now. We're at 112 calls, so 112 gifts. So we need 88 gifts in the next hour in order to get that $20,000 match. 88 gifts. With your help, we can get there. 888-291-8000. And I promise we won't take a lot of your time. If we can stay on track getting those calls, we won't have to take a great deal of your time. We'll let Joe do what he really loves to do, which is talk about Jesus or the church or I should say and Jesus and the church and the sacraments and the saints and holiness and morality and whatever else you got on your mind. Whether you're Catholic or not, you're welcome to call. So let me give out that number. This is not the pledge number. This is the number to call if you want to get on the air with Joe Heschmeyer and ask anything you want to ask about the Catholic faith. That number is 888-318-7884. Just say it one more time, and that's it for the hour. So write it down if you're thinking of calling later. 888-318-7884. 2 lines open right now. Joe, I think what I'd like to do is just kind of leave it with folks, let them decide if they're going to call right now, and we'll take a phone call so we won't leave people waiting before we give them something to sink their teeth into.
All right. That sounds good to me.
All right. Let me just reset it for you. $180,000 match. Any gift up to $180,000 matched. And if we can get to 200 calls today, which we are just 88 calls away from, we will get a $20,000 bonus from a very generous donor. 888-291-8000 is the number to call. 888-291-8000, or go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. We start out right here in Los Angeles. Andrew is listening on our app, the Catholic Answers Live app. Andrew, thank you for listening, for calling. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Hello, Cy. Hello,
Hi.
Him.
Hi, Andrew. Him.
I've been watching the Shameless Coffee episodes on Mormonism, and I've taken to heart especially the advice not to point and laugh at them, but to really listen to them. Anyway, I've been approached by Mormon missionaries, and they think they're evangelizing me, but I'm really evangelizing them. And I've realized that they've got a very similar view of authority to us, which I really respect. And you've also raised a great point that Mormonism is the logical conclusion of the Protestant Reformation. I'd like to know what you would think is the best plan of attack, so to speak, to evangelize the Catholic faith to them.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did a several episode series on Shameless Popery on this. So I'm going to give you the very short answer, and I think it already sounds like you know where to go for the long one. But the first thing, I think it's good to build up some common ground so that you don't just come at it as enemies. Because if someone comes at any topic as your enemy, it's very hard to listen to them, very hard to learn from them. So there's two things that I find helpful. The first is focusing on, as you point out, that we have a similar kind of conception of authority. We both believe that Jesus founding the church is incredibly important, that there is a visible, structured church to which we are called to be members. And then the entire question turns on a really specific question of fact and theology, which is, did the church founded by Jesus Christ go into an apostasy or not? And as a matter of history, and as a matter of Jesus's divine promises in Matthew 16, we say no, and Mormons say yes. So I would start with that, because there's many Mormons who will say, well, it's either us or Catholics who are right. Because either the church went into apostasy and was restored by Joseph Smith, or didn't go into apostasy, in which case we're looking for a 2,000-year-old church, and the Catholic Church is the obvious contender. And I've had plenty of Mormons kind of agree to those terms at the outset. Now, we would say it's possible, like it isn't as if the Catholic Church going into apostasy would automatically make Mormonism true. So we wouldn't be facing the same binary in the other direction. But that is a helpful way of framing it, where it shows a common, we're asking the same questions, would be maybe a way to say it. Even though we're coming to very different answers, we're at least taking the issue of the church as, the kingdom of God on earth very seriously and pursuing that inquiry. And then the second thing is, anytime you can build from the common ground, even in the differences, that can be really good. So I'm going to give you just one example for the sake of time. On abortion, most Mormons are incredibly pro-life, and praise God. It's wonderful that they are. When you read the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints website, they permit abortion in certain cases. The bishop can approve abortions, and the church is very hesitant to use the term murder to describe what's happening, even though they don't give any explanation for why it wouldn't be. And that exposes a sort of hypocrisy within their church in a way that I think many Mormons are often surprised. So a lot of times the Mormons you're talking to are 18, 19-year-old kids who are coming to your door. And so for many of them, this is their first time realizing that their church allows abortion in some cases, even though by all logic and reason, this would seem like it's permitting murder if the bishop says it's okay. So I have found that to be a particularly poignant kind of point that I've, like, more than any other single point, that has been the one that I can tell kind of sticks with missionaries, leaves them wondering, like, what is going on there? And that can be a good thing just to kind of begin that conversation, because once you lay out, here are the stakes. If your church is wrong, you should take this one very seriously, and then give them good reasons to doubt that their church is right on major issues. Let God do the rest from there.
Andrew, thank you for the call. Just for the listeners' benefit, Andrew was referring to Joe's podcast, Shameless Popery, where he digs deeply into issues and spends a good amount of time making sure that he's fully explored them from a Catholic perspective, and did wonderful work on Mormonism there. And that is part of what you're supporting when you support this program, Catholic Answers Live. It takes $225,000 each quarter, each 3 months of the year, in order to produce all the programs, in order to keep the lights on and have the video and the audio feeds and all that stuff. And to get it out, we give the program free. Well, you give the program free. Really, you're the ones giving it. You give the program free when you pay for it to hundreds of Catholic radio stations. Maybe you're listening to this on a Catholic radio station right now that gets the program free. All across the EWTN network, on a satellite radio, on apps, on websites, on social media sites. It's always free because you pay for it. Right now, we are in the midst of that pledge drive. We need your help. We have a $180,000 match for the pledge drive. That means up to $180,000 every gift, whether it's a $10 monthly gift a $1,000 one-time gift, or as we had the first hour, a $5,000 one-time gift, whatever. All matched dollar for dollar. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call 888-291-8000 or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. We also have a bonus on the line. We have a donor who says, I'll give you $20,000 if you can get 200 people to give in the first 2 hours of the pledge drive. That's actually a very helpful thing for that person to do because it's always hard to start these pledge drives. So we're with your help, we'll get there. I'll tell you where we are right now, 75 calls away. Can we get 70? Well, I shouldn't say calls. It's not calls because you can go online and do it as well.
Yes.
75 gifts away. Just go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com or dial 888-291-8000. Joe Heschmeyer is our guest.
I was
sorry.
I
Joe.
was going to add something real quick.
Yeah.
Any new monthly donors, you get a year of the premium subscription to Hallow. And Hallow has a great library. I was actually digging around in it today, and I discovered, which I hadn't realized before, that it has 4 audiobooks read by people you may have heard of, like Sister Miriam James. And it's 4 of my favorite spiritual books. So it's Story of a Soul, Searching for Peace. I think that's the same as Searching for and Maintaining Peace. This is a version I have by Father Jacques Philippe. The Practice of the Presence of God, and then Introduction to the Devout Life. And so these are 4 spiritual classics. If you haven't read them, I really recommend it. And if you want them read to you, the Hallow app is a great way to do that. It's got a bunch of other stuff as well. I wanted to highlight that feature and say any new monthly donor in this pledge drive is going to get that for a year. So it's a great time if you want to go deeper and feel like, oh, I'm in the car a lot, I don't have time to do as much reading as I want to. You can sanctify that time. So I really encourage it.
I knew Introduction to Devout Life was going to make your list, Joe. I knew that was going to make your list.
It's my favorite book. I mentioned it a lot.
888-291-8000 is the place to go. I'll tell you what, everyone you talk to is one of our colleagues. They are here in the building with us. We hang out and work together each day. Don't ask them how annoying the radio department is. They don't want to talk about that, but you can talk about anything you want. You want to talk about why you're giving to Catholic Answers. You want to talk about what it has meant to you, or you want to ask a question about what we do here, even up to including looking at the books, because it's all public. We don't hide it, and we'd love to share it with you. But we need more than 70 calls right now. It looks like 72. It's hard to keep exact track at the moment, but looks like 72 calls we need this hour. 888-291-8000 or safe and secure online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. If you give in either of those places, it counts. 888-291-8000 or safe and secure online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Going to Zach in Iowa now, watching on YouTube. Welcome, Zach. Go ahead with your question for Joe. Hi, Zach.
Hello.
Any chance you could turn that radio down?
A second.
I mean, you know,
yeah,
I enjoy listening to myself.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Truthfully, I have been watching a lot of this guy called Radio the Harvest. I'm not sure if you heard of him, but he takes a very neutral point of view to all religions. Anyway, the point is, he's gotten me thinking about a lot of stuff, and one of the current things that I have at the moment is I know that there's some denominations that believe in predestination, and my original instinctive reaction is like, what? But then I was like, well, kind of hard to argue against that when you think about, let's say, Judas, who was like, he's supposed to betray Jesus. Like, as soon as he got the Eucharist, it was like right after that, then Satan entered him. And then I don't remember the exact verse off the top of my head, or nor the exact wording, but as I recall, when God was assuring Moses that he'd be with him, he'd also assured him that I'd make Ramesses, he's obstinate or stone-hearted. I was like, well,
is there predestination?
I don't know how to.
Is that what you want to know?
I was like, I don't know how to. Yeah. Well, no, I don't. I know that there isn't. It's just I don't know how to kind of counter somebody bringing that up. Say some non-Catholic throws that at me. I was like,
all right, Joe.
That's a very good question. The first thing I'd say is there is predestination, just not in the Calvinistic sense of it. So God is outside of time. And so anything that happens, God either desired that it happened or permitted it to happen for some reason. And so in that sense, we have to take, St. Paul is very clear, those whom he foreknew, he also predestined. Like, he even uses the language of predestination to describe this. The problem is that when modern Christians hear the term predestination, they often have a very specific, very Protestant, very Calvinistic kind of understanding of what that means, that if there is predestination, then there is no free will. Then our choices are only illusory, or we're not making free choices. And that doesn't follow logically, and it's not true. So I'm going to take the example of Pharaoh as a clear way you can see this. In Exodus chapter 9 and 10, we hear both that in verse 34, Pharaoh sees the rain and the hail and thunder, it ceases. He sinned yet again and hardened his heart. And then in verse 35, it says, so the heart of Pharaoh was hardened. And then in Exodus 10:1, God says, go into Moses, for I have hardened his heart. So in the span of a few verses, we hear both that Pharaoh hardens his own heart and that God hardens Pharaoh's heart. So how can we harmonize that without just ignoring one side of the ledger or the other? The best explanation I've heard, so it was super hot here in the Midwest until we got an amazing day of relief. It's like 18 degrees cooler today than it was yesterday. And it was blazingly hot. And when you have mud out in the sun like that, it hardens. When you have butter out in the sun like that, it melts. So we can say the sun hardened the soil and it melted the butter, but that doesn't mean that the sun hates the soil and loves the butter or anything like that. What we're really doing is it's two ways of describing the reaction soil versus butter has to the sun. And so likewise, we react to God in different ways, either by opening our hearts or by hardening them. And so in that way, just as we can talk about the soil being hardened or melted, we can talk about our hearts being hardened or melted, but we have an actual role to play in whether we allow our hearts to be open to the Lord or whether we harden them. And so if we harden them, we can both say God hardened our hearts in the sense that it was in response to God that this happened, just like it's in response to the sun that the clay hardens, and that we harden our own hearts. So both can be true. So that's what I would suggest there. And the fact that God incorporates even our sin into his plan of salvation, as we see most famously in the case of Judas, doesn't make it not sin. Like, the reason Judas is punished, the reason that Jesus can say it would be better for him not to have been born, is because it actually does matter what we freely choose to do. If we had no agency over it, we wouldn't be held accountable for it. You know, if you are, let's say, on a train as a passenger, and the train is in some sort of horrible collision and somebody dies, you're a passenger on the train. You had no agency. You had nothing to do with that. You were there, but you didn't cause it to happen. You were simply along for the ride. And so if predestination was like that, we could never be held accountable. And the early Christians recognized this, by the way. St. Justin Martyr responded to the popular pagan view of the time, which was fate, and said, that is not what we believe as Christians. We believe in free will. So in the 100s, you have very clearly the fact that the Christian conception of predestination very explicitly includes the freedom of our will to cooperate with or resist God.
Thank you very much for the call, Zach. Appreciate that. We got lots more calls to do, and we're going to let Joe talk to folks. But every now and then, I have to just interrupt and let you know that we are in the first day of our quarterly pledge drive. We take 3 days out of every 3 months and ask you for your support so we can continue to do what we do. And that allows us to send the show all around the world to people for free. You hear the calls. You hear the calls from Asia. You hear the calls from Australia. You hear the calls from South America, North America, Europe. Am I going to name all the continents? But let's go Africa. You hear from, I don't even know. I can't.
You know what? Different countries have different lists of continents. I found that out a few years ago and thought that was really bizarre.
Just
wanted to throw that out there as
Europe's
well.
not a
some
continent.
of the people in some of those places are going to say, oh, we consider Eurasia as one continent. We consider the Americas as one continent. Very strange.
Eurasia is one continent. I'll just straighten that out for you. 888-291-8000.
Calls from Pangea.
I'd love it if somebody gets some calls from Pangea, Antarctica, Arctica, whatever. 888-291-8000 is the number. Let me tell you where we are right now. 14 lines open. We're working our way towards 200 calls. If we can hit 200 pledges this hour, if we can hit the 200 number by the end of the hour, we will get a $20,000 bonus from a generous donor, and we are 67 calls away from that. 67 calls away right now. You can call 888-291-8000 and make your pledge. You want to pledge $1,000? It's going to get matched. You want to pledge $5,000? It's going to get matched. All of it, dollar for dollar, up to $180,000. You want to pledge $10, maybe $10 a month, $20, maybe $20 a month. It's all matched. Let me just explain the monthly one too, because sometimes people are confused on this. You make a monthly pledge of $20 a month. That's $240 to us. But the $240 match comes to us instantly. We're immediately getting that $240 match. So you're matched for the whole year if you make a monthly pledge. 888-291-8000. 13 lines open right now. Everybody who makes a pledge. I'm
going to do a little bit of math here, if I may, Si. Yeah. If you've got the means to live on $100 fewer or less a month, fewer and less is confusing. $100 less a month than you currently live on. Now, that's not going to be everybody, and I respect that. I don't want to. But if you are someone who could give $100, let's just use that for the sake of round numbers. You give a $100 monthly donation to Catholic Answers. Any time of year, that would be an amazing gift. And that comes out to $1,200. Look at that math. But today, it comes out to $2,400 because it's doubled. And it helps us to get an extra $20,000. That is an enormous maximizing of your gift. And on your end, not only do you know your dollar's gone so much further, another one of those confusing ones. You also get Joel Peters' book, Sola Scriptura, Does It Work? Look at that.
Sola Scriptura does not work.
Doesn't work. Yes.
Yep.
And you also get a year of the premium subscription to Hallow. And so you get a whole lot for your dollar, not just the assurance that it's going a lot farther than normal, but also you're getting something out of it that you wouldn't ordinarily get. So this is a great time to donate. If you want to donate at that level, if you're comfortable at that level, God bless you. And this would be a tremendous way of helping to build up this mission, particularly if you're someone who says, I like the work of Catholic Answers. Maybe I wish I could do more myself. I wish there was some way I could, do this kind of thing. There is, and this is one of those ways that you can help out with it. 12
lines open. I'm going to make Joe answer another question. If you would please fill up those lines, 888-291-8000. 888-291-8000. Don't forget, your pledge matched 100% right now. Jake's in Indiana. Jake, go ahead with your question for Joe.
Hi, I'm just honored to be on the show with both you, Si, and him. Apparently, is that him?
That's my favorite. I love that when that happens. Yeah, yes, thank you very much. That's him.
That's
right.
Yeah, that's got to be the weirdest thing to try to explain to anyone who hasn't.
We don't know time to explain it because we got to get your call in before the break. Go ahead, Jake, with your question.
Gotcha. So my question's about concupiscence. I was just recently listening to Jimmy Akin and Jordan Cooper, the Lutheran. Yeah. I come from a conversion of evangelical, worked my way up studying others than just Baptists and Calvinists and Anglicans, looking at Lutherans, and then I came back to my roots. I was baptized as a Catholic, and I'm looking at Catholicism. I'm so close to becoming fully Catholic. I just had a question about that. It was a little discussion on Pints with Aquinas about concupiscence and how is it a desire to sin is sinful if it's not acted out. That's what Jordan Cooper is saying, and therefore the Catholic view of concupiscence is false because Catholicism says that sin, concupiscence is if there's some difference.
All right, Joe.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We can make a nuanced distinction here to show that Cooper's position it misses the mark. Concupiscence is what we use to describe the fact that we are inclined towards sin. That as a result of original sin, all of us are tempted to do things that are not in our own benefit, that they are going to be things that hurt ourselves, our neighbor, our relationship with God. So we have sinful desires. But if that was itself automatically a sin, then there's really very little use in even having the spiritual life where you resist temptation, because the mere fact you got tempted means you already lost. And so you've already lost the fight by the mere fact that you're in the fight. So the temptation itself is not a sin. Like when Jesus is tempted in the desert, that's not concupiscence, but there is temptation. That's not a sin on Jesus's part. Calvin in Institutes, when he's talking about Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane, seems to impute something like concupiscence to him. That's totally wrong. And Jesus doesn't sin, obviously. And so that is a bad understanding of the spiritual life. What the glimmer of truth is there's another thing that gets conflated with concupiscence, which is sometimes called delectation, where you delight in the temptation itself. So a temptation crosses your mind, and you kind of flirt with it. You entertain it. Maybe you're married and some very attractive person puts some moves on you. And you, of course, are going to say no. But you're also like, I feel pretty darn good about that. Delighting in the temptation can be sinful. But at the heart of this is something really clear as a principle. Every sin involves the human will. It's you did something you shouldn't have done, or you didn't do something you should have done. Something you don't will is never sinful. And you being tempted against your will is an example of your will not being involved, and therefore it's by definition not a sin unless you desire to play with it.
Catholic Answers Live would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners in airing our daily program. Please support the stations and networks that carry us each day, ensuring that we have a platform for broadcasting the show. And please bear in mind that while we don't have to pay for airtime on our affiliate stations, neither do they contribute to the operating costs we incur. It's a great relationship, but it requires that we turn to you, our devoted listeners, for your prayers and financial support to cover our ever-growing expenses. Please call 888-291-8000 right now and help to keep Catholic Answers Live strong. That's 888-291-8000. Or you can donate securely online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com. What began as a humble one-hour daily show that was carried by 4 stations has, with the generosity of many fantastic people like you, blossomed into a 2-hour broadcast heard on hundreds of AM and FM stations, the internet, Sirius XM radio, Facebook, YouTube, and via podcast. We don't make that possible. You do. We simply cannot continue this media mission without your most generous gift today. Call 888-291-8000 or log on to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and donate now. People tell us all the time how much they depend on Catholic Answers Live to help them better learn, live, and share their faith. What they're really saying is they depend on you for that. Will you come through for them right now? It only takes a couple of minutes to make a huge difference at 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Again, 888-291-8000 or CatholicAnswersRadio.com. No matter how much you give, be assured of our gratitude and know that God will richly bless you. Phone 888-291-8000 or go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. It's important that you take this important step right now, today, to make sure that Catholic Answers Live is here tomorrow and for years to come. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. Joe Heschmeyer is our guest. It's an Ask Me Anything today. Lots of folks on the lines, and we will get right to those calls. I just want to, for a quick second, remind you that right now we are in the midst of our annual pledge drive where we try to get this program and the other programs that we make here in this studio fully funded for the next 3 months. That takes $225,000. It's been that number for quite a while, and we just always try to let people know this is what we need and ask you to help us to get there. That $225,000 gets lots and lots of people either to encounter the Catholic Church for the first time or to re-encounter the Catholic Church, to come to hear about the person of Jesus and to come to know that they can meet him. They can receive him in baptism and in the other sacraments of the Church. They can even receive him into their own bodies in the Eucharist and be forgiven their sins. This is the joy that the world needs, to know that in Christ we have eternal life, life to the full. We share that message with thousands and thousands and thousands of people, but you know who makes that possible? Hundreds and hundreds of people, not thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Hundreds and hundreds of people give in each pledge drive. And we found out that if we can get 100 people to call each hour of the pledge drive, it turns out that we're almost always fully funded by the end of that. So a donor, knowing this, said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $20,000 if you can get 200 callers or 200 donors in the first 2 hours of the pledge drive. And that's where we are right now. Right now, we are about 60 We're about 60 calls away from doing that. That is very doable. That's 2 calls a minute or 2 pledges a minute for the next 30 minutes that we're on. Go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. You'll see you can do it very quickly. It's a 1 or 2 minute undertaking. CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Any amount you give adds to that tally. Or you can call 888-291-8000. Right now, 12 of our colleagues are sitting with open lines ready to take your calls. 12, that's a lot. If we can fill those up, look at that. If we just filled up those 12 lines right now, we'd get this under 50. We'd be under 50 calls that we need. So how about we do that? I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give out the number and the details again, and then I'm going to let Joe answer a question, and we'll see if we can get this under 50. 888-291-8000. Those, we fill up those 12 lines right now, we'll get under 50. Your gift is completely matched up to $180,000. If you make a new monthly pledge, it's matched for the whole year immediately. Anybody who makes a new pledge gets the new book, Sola Scriptura Doesn't Work, the latest book from Catholic Answers Press. And everybody who gives a new monthly pledge is a member of the Hallow Premium app for a full year. 888-291-8000. Great time to call. 11 lines open right now. 888-291-8000. Or go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. I'm going to be watching the numbers here, see if we can get this under 50. If we can get this under 50 by the time Joe finishes answering this question. 888-291-8000. Joe, you ready to take a question?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go to Jan in Jackson, Mississippi, listening on Good Shepherd Radio. Jan, we're very glad you're here. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
Hi, Jan. It's Jan from Jackson, Michigan, not Mississippi.
I apologize. They wrote it in correctly. I read it wrong. That's my fault.
That's okay.
So I get points off.
My question is, Joe, do you think that relocating all the tabernacles in the Catholic churches back to the center of the sanctuary as the focal point might assist in reinstating the belief among the faithful in the transubstantiation of the Eucharist? And if so, if you think it might, how could we get it done?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say in many cases, the answer to that would be yes, but that is a little tricky. So I lived in Rome for 3 years, and there you often have a Eucharistic side chapel, and it's really good that they do, because in many of these churches, there's a lot of tourist foot traffic and people taking pictures and everything else. And these are houses of worship that are meant to be open to everyone and are legitimately beautiful. And we want to invite people who aren't Catholic, who aren't pilgrims, to come and experience them. And in many cases, they have these profound impacts, but they are nevertheless also the house of God and a place for prayer. And so having a side chapel that's often, marked off in a pretty clear way, where it's an area where tourists aren't allowed, where it's a place where people can only go to pray, that is a really beautiful way of actually respecting the fact that the Eucharist is Jesus, and we want to approach with kind of a humble awe. And so if you have the architectural beauty in the church that you are attracting tourists, and you need a Eucharistic side chapel to encourage that kind of private prayer, or even if you just have like maybe a large echoey church where a Eucharistic side chapel can be really helpful, that's why I wouldn't say as a universal kind of rule. But in many cases, instead of doing that, churches kind of put Jesus away. I heard one priest refer to it as the Church of Mary Magdalene. They've taken my Lord and I don't know where they've put him. And, you don't want that. You don't want Jesus consigned to somewhere lowly and, like a converted broom closet. But it is good to have a beautiful, reverent place to pray. So I would suggest that what that is going to look like may differ on a case-by-case basis by church. But in many cases, depending on the logistics of the church, it might just mean moving the tabernacle back to where it traditionally was.
Jan, thank you. Sorry about getting the state wrong, but thank you very much for the call and the question. Oh, you know what it is, Joe? Exactly 50. We got to exactly 50. Yes. So we're trying to get it under 50. But that's really good news. Thank you so much for your generosity in calling and helping out. We're in the midst of our August pledge drive. We come to you just 4 times a year to ask you to support what we do. I have to be honest with you.
If we miss $20,000 by like 2 callers,
I'm going to call. I'll call myself. I got my cell phone in my office. I'll just run and get it, and I'll make 2 calls, and I'll give the money, Joe, for 20 grand. 888-291-8000 is the number to call. This is what I was going to say, Joe. I honestly never feel bad about asking for money for what we do because for 2 reasons. One, I see where the money goes, that it's not going into, crazy salaries for anybody, or it's not going into, a fancy break. You've been in the break room, Joe. It's not going into a fancy break room. It goes on the air. Every dollar of it goes on the air. Yeah. And then second, we've got to be out there doing this. This is what the Catholic Church needs to be doing. And when I'm not at all saying Catholic Answers Live is the only people doing it. I mean, we have these magnificent Catholic radio stations 24 hours a day just blaring out the gospel to anybody, yes, driving down the freeway that can pick it up. We've got EWTN doing their wonderful work. We got the podcasters like Matt Fradd and all these guys. There's wonderful stuff going on, but we've got to be there. So I never feel bad saying,
right now there's somebody listening to Catholic Answers Live who is not Catholic, who's never picked up a Catholic book, who would never subscribe to a Catholic magazine, who maybe doesn't know a lot of devout Catholics in their life, who can answer the questions that they might have in the back of their mind. And they're learning something they didn't know before. And the good of that is so hard to put a dollar value next to, there's more rejoicing in heaven over one sheep returning to the flock. That's pretty big. And so I would say this is the kind of work that in many cases is literally irreplaceable, because if you don't have Catholic radio, what other means are you going to use to meet that person? You don't even know them. I don't even know them. So I would simply point to that as an important way of contextualizing the work that we do, and why I think it's really worth becoming a regular donor to make sure that there's a good, sustainable base of support that we can grow and expand and reach even more people as we move forward.
And as we sometimes say, the child you bring back to the church might be your own. Lots of us have children. I'm certainly among them who have adult children not practicing the faith, that we just want somebody to get through to them somewhere. And that's part of what you're helping us do. We asked folks to share what Catholic Answers Live has meant to them. Jason told us this.
Recently, I was in a parish.
Good morning. I converted to Catholicism 3 years ago. I started working at a Catholic school, and Catholic Answers, while I started going through CIA, man, they taught me so much. I listen to them every night, their podcast, and I still do. I support you guys. You've done tremendous things. I listen to them as much as I can still, and I listen to all the other podcasts that you offer. I can't say enough about Catholic Answers. It was a great organization for me when I started, and it helped me get through it and helped me convert. And I'll forever be grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. We're very grateful that Jason called and left that message so that we could share that with you as we ask you for your support. It is something, I mean, Joe, you go out speaking a great deal. I mean, I rarely go into a Catholic church to give a talk that somebody doesn't say to me, hey, the reason I'm here in this church is I heard you guys on Catholic radio. And I'm always delighted to hear it. I know that I'm not the apologist. I'm not the guy that answers the questions. But to be part of it, it really is a joyful thing.
It really is. I mean, my background, I was in a lot of academia in terms of being a student for a long time. I've adjunct taught a college class. And there's a joy to that. And you can reach some people. I don't want to denigrate the real work of scholars and intellectuals, but the kind of work of just reaching ordinary people in ordinary language is so rewarding, and you can see pretty directly the fruit of it. And it's something that we need more of. It's something that we need. I mean, I would love to have a generation of on-fire Catholics who are ready with answers to offer for the hope that lies within them, and to do it in a reverent way, in a way that's clear, in a way that is charitable, in a way that speaks truth to a world badly in need of it. And whatever little thing we can do to help do that here. And I think I can see the results. And as you say, kind of wherever we go, we encounter people who have this story, not just people who've intentionally come to our talks. I was in a city recently, and at Mass, before I was going to the talk, I bumped into a woman who's called into Catholic Answers before. I didn't get her permission to use any of her details, so I won't. But she didn't even know I was coming in town. She was so excited. She recognized me, and it led to a really beautiful, edifying conversation. And if it hadn't have been for that providential run-in, that's one more person we wouldn't have known that we'd reached or that we'd kind of connected with. These people exist all over the country, all over the world, and the people like you listening right now are the ones who make that happen in the relatively cheap kind of way that's possible. I mean, compared to what it would have cost, say, 50 years ago to do something like this, it would have been impossible much before that. You know, we're very blessed to live in a world where we can spread the gospel, this pearl of great price for an extraordinarily inexpensive amount of money.
All right, I'm going to let Joe, we'll do it again, this thing that we just did, because we're getting close to reaching our goal to get a $20,000 bonus from a donor who said, look, if you can get 200 people to call and give you money the first day of the pledge drive, 200 people, then I'll give you $20,000 extra dollars. It's a wonderful motivator for us, and I think for callers as well. And it'll get around, the number will be down to about 30 calls if we can fill up the 13 lines that are open right now. So let's just fill up those. I'm going to let Joe answer a question. Will you call and make your gift? Every gift is matched dollar for dollar up to $180,000 this pledge drive. Every gift, whether it's a one-time gift or a new monthly pledge. I suggest if you can, come in with any kind of monthly pledge, $10 a month, $20 a month, $50 a month, because you get the Hallow app. Well, you get a lot. You're in Society 315, you get the T-shirt, you get all that stuff. And you can find out all about that on our website. But you get a full year of the Hallow app if you can come in as a new monthly donor. So here we go. We're going to let Joe take a call. If we can fill up, it's 12 lines now open. If we can fill up those 12 lines, we are very close. We'll be very close when we come back from this call. 888-291-8000. It counts if you give safe and secure online at CatholicAnswersRadio.com as well. So both will go into my tally here, CatholicAnswersRadio.com, or there's 12 lines open. Let's fill them up right now. 888-291-8000. Going to Oklahoma. Alex in Oklahoma watching on YouTube. Welcome, Alex. Go ahead with your question.
Thank you. So I was reading 2 Kings 13, and I stumbled on 20 to 21. And I said, gosh, that sounds like the relics the Catholics talk about when they throw the man into Elisha's tomb and he revives. So my question is, what is it about relics that give them power, or why does God use relics to give grace?
Yeah, so I don't know if people heard you say Elijah or Elisha, but it is Elisha. Elijah, chariot into heaven, no relics. But Elisha, someone is thrown into his tomb and comes back to life when his body touches the bones of Elisha. This is a way of showing the power of God working through human instruments. What I mean is this: God could save us apart from us, but he doesn't desire to do that. The whole reason Jesus becomes incarnate is to save humanity through humanity. That he becomes fully man while already being fully God. He could have found another way to redeem the world. That's not really a problem for God. He chooses this way because it gives humanity a greater dignity. And likewise, he works through the prophets and the evangelists and everything else in a way that shows their dignity, and it shows, by the way, also the dignity of the human body. Think about how we often treat bodies in the modern culture. You know, we just burn them up and scatter them to the four winds. And thanks be to God, that didn't happen with Elisha, because we should bear in mind two things. Number one, God loves us, and he desires to bring us along in the plan of salvation, not simply as those being redeemed, but as active agents in the work of redemption. And you see this all over the place, where St. Paul can say, be imitators of me as I am of Christ. We can talk about how we help to save other people by bringing them back from their sins. And that, so in addition to the bones of Elisha mentioned here, I would point to two other examples in Acts, where you have the shadow of St. Peter, and you have the handkerchiefs touched to St. Paul that are then brought to the sick. And it's a way of showing divine power working through human agents. You also see this in a bunch of other ways. So, for instance, the wedding feast of Cana, Jesus never touches the water when it becomes wine. He works through the servants. This is the background to what we call sacraments, that the minister is an instrument of divine power, but a willing, cooperating instrument of divine power. By obediently cooperating with what God has laid out, you can do things that by your mere human agency you could never do. That's what's being revealed through the bodies and the ministry of these people. And that's why we treat the body with a great deal of respect, even after the person has died. And because this is a temple of the Holy Spirit. And so even when the first temple was destroyed and you just had ruins, people went to the site and they prayed at the ruins because they recognized a ruined temple is still a temple. A dead body is still a body. And it still preserves the dignity, which is why we treat the body with respect.
Thank you so much for the call and for the question. And I'm only laughing because I was trying to get I was trying to get into the 30s, and we're at. It's hard for me to tell exactly, but it looks like we're about at 140 right now. So we keep getting so close. But that means, look, 40.
Wait, 140? We have 60 more?
No, I'm sorry. We're at 4. I was trying to get it down to into the 30s. I got it to 40. I apologize. I said that
okay.
wrong. So look, that just means 40 gifts in the next 15 minutes. That's very, very doable. Could you pick up the phone now and make your pledge? 888-291-8000, or go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. We started the day saying, look, if we can get 200 people to make a gift, we have this donor who will give us a $20,000 match in addition to all the dollar for dollar matches that are also on for every single gift, just a bonus of $20,000. And now maybe a little more than 30 calls to go. It's not the easiest thing to get an exact tally on while we're going, but we're very close to needing just 30 calls, maybe even under 30. I'm not sure. We're in that ballpark. So I want to thank David in El Paso who gave $2,000. Holy smokes, David, thank you very much. A listener in Colorado called back after giving a donation and wanted to let us know how much she relies on the show to bolster her faith. She had a reversion to her Catholic faith back in 2015 and happened upon the program. Been listening ever since. She tells everybody about Catholic Answers Live. I want to thank that caller in Colorado. We feel the same way about it. I mean, if you work here, you meet all kinds of wonderful people who are, one of the great things that Joe and I get to do is travel, and you realize Jesus has saints all over the place. You go into parishes and there's saintly people there. And all we're trying to do is get people, we use the radio or the TV or whatever app you're watching on to get you to get into that parish, receive Jesus, and be among those saints. To be among that's all we want. And thank you to everybody who's helping us to do that. I'll tell you what, there's 8 lines open right now. Can we fill them up? I'm going to make Joe keep working. I'm not going to let him off the hook. 888-291-8000. Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was going to say, we've talked a lot about the role of people who are not involved with their faith coming back to the faith or discovering Catholicism for the first time. But I would suggest another great role radio plays is for those who are not connected with a vibrant Catholic community. Maybe there's not one where they live. Maybe they're shut in, they're elderly, they're homebound for whatever reason. And having good, edifying content that they can listen to on the radio and watch on YouTube or on Facebook can be a real spiritual edification and strengthening, where you remember that, just as you mentioned, Cy, we're surrounded by this cloud of witnesses, both the heavenly cloud, but also these unknown saints here on earth, that when you connect with them, as we often have the privilege of doing, it is so encouraging. And so I hope this show is encouraging for those at home to just be reminded, there are other people who care about God as much as you do, who love God as much as you do, and are trying to know, love, and serve him here on earth.
Amen to that, brother. One of the great strategies of the evil one is to make us feel like we're alone.
Yes.
I know that we are under 30 calls that we need right now. There are 5 lines open right now. Can we fill up those lines? I will make Joe take another call. And I say make, but he loves doing this stuff.
I do.
And so, but we'll take another call if you'll fill up those 5 lines. Every gift, whether it's a monthly gift or a one-time gift, is matched dollar for dollar right now. And every gift gets us one closer to a $20,000 bonus. And we're just 30 callers away from being there. 888-291-8000. It also counts, your gift counts towards that tally if you go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and give there. CatholicAnswersRadio.com. Patrick's in Omaha, Nebraska. And if you're in Omaha, you're listening on Spirit Catholic Radio. Welcome, Patrick. Go ahead with your question for Joe.
All right. Quick testimony before my question. In high school back in 1991, I fell away from Christ. My Protestant preacher's daughter girlfriend brought me back to Christ. And Carl Keating's book and This Rock magazine kept me Catholic.
Oh, it's Catholic Answers magazine now, but thank you for that. Thank you.
I've been with Catholic Answers since 1992 through Jimmy Akin, Tim Staples joining, Jimmy Akin joining, everybody joining. It's been fantastic. I listen to Catholic Answers Radio every night on the drive home from work.
Oh,
my question.
Praise God.
Thank you for the
Thanks
testimony.
For being part of the team. Yeah.
Go ahead, Patrick.
My question. Until recently, I have never really run across a fundamentalist who believes the King James Bible is the only authorized English translation. How do I answer that?
Yeah, I would say number one, King James is an Anglican and they're not Anglican, so it's a very strange thing to insist that the English king has the authority over the Bible in any way, shape, or form, particularly if you're not Anglican. Number two, I would actually lead by asking questions like, why do you think the King James Version is the only authorized version or the only inspired translation into English or any of these things? And the answers they usually give are, well, a lot of people speak English, which is okay, sure. But all of the answers being given invariably end up being better arguments for the Latin Vulgate. Well, for 1,000 years, everybody in the West who could read pretty much read Latin. So that seems to be an argument for the Latin Vulgate being inspired. It's a very strange, weak set of arguments to lead to the KJV onlyism. And with each of them, as you're hearing the person present them, think to yourself or respond by saying, well, wouldn't that also be an argument for saying the Latin Vulgate was a divinely inspired translation in the 7th century? And unlike the King James Version, the church actually does have authorization to spread the scriptures and to determine which are the authentic versions, not the state, not the English government. So again, all of the authorization issues, all of the theological issues kind of being provided would better point to the Catholic versions of the Bible, like the Latin Vulgate, than they would support the 1611 King James Version.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you for the testimony. It's beautiful. 20 calls now. If we can do 20 calls by the top of the hour, we're $20,000 closer to our goal of being fully funded for the next 3 months. 20 calls, 888-291-8000, or you can go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com. As a matter of fact, if you can go safe and secure online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and make your pledge there, it will be matched dollar for dollar. And it will leave a line open for somebody else. Right now, there's just 4 lines open. We need 20 gifts. And I didn't know what was going to happen at the beginning, and I think we can do it. I believe.
Yes, this is
please call and help us.
Nerve-wracking, win by a nose kind of Olympic final.
Yeah, it is.
If you weren't sweating.
It's going to be a photo finish here.
Yeah,
888-291-8000 is the number to call. You're calling this building. You're talking to our colleagues who work in this building with us. Let them know your story, or just let them know you want to get done real quick because you got to get back on the road or whatever. Either way will work. 888-291-8000. If we can, we're going to be on the air here with you for about 90 more seconds. If we can get 20 more calls or more gifts by the top of the hour, whether you go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com or you call 888-291-8000. But I will tell you this, we will stay and answer the phones until they stop ringing. So if you're pulling into the driveway now, you've got time to call, but please do call 888-291-8000 or go online to CatholicAnswersRadio.com and make your gift there. Joe Heschmeyer, I'm very grateful for the hour. You got anything you want to say to encourage folks to give while you got 20 seconds with them?
Absolutely. Like more than ever, you have $20,000 hanging on the line. Even if you can only give a small amount, like $10 a month, do that. And it's $10 a month plus $20,000. So think about it that way. That suddenly feels like a much like I've heard of doubling. I've even heard of tripling. I've never heard of your $10 a month suddenly becomes a $20,000 bonus. So it would be a real tragedy to miss that. So I would really encourage you and say, pull out all the stops. And if you're at all on the fence saying maybe you'll donate tomorrow, do it today. And it makes a world of difference.
This is going to be an exciting finish. I think we're going to get there, but I will tell you when we come on the air tomorrow if we made it. If we can get 200 gifts today, I didn't know if we were going to get 50 or where we were going to be, but we are so close to that 200. 6 lines open at the moment, 888-291-8000. If you don't get through the first time, just dial again. The people will be getting on and off the phone pretty quickly. At the moment, you can go to CatholicAnswersRadio.com or dial 888-291-8000. I'll let you know how we did when we come back tomorrow.